What's up, guys? Saf here on SuperSaf Speaks. It's been a while, hasn't it, man?
Yeah, it has been.
Quite a long break, which we weren't anticipating, but there's been a lot going on. But we're back for 2024 with the podcast, and we will be keeping consistent at least once a month, hopefully twice a month. And there's been lots going on, right? We've had lots of videos, and I've also been guest hosting on another podcast, Wahid. So we've had some guests like Khabib, Nurmagomedov, the UFC fighter Islam Makhachev, Paul Pogba, Mutabil, Napoleon, who you might know as. So that's a different thing that I've been working on. You must have been seeing some of the clips pop up on the channel. You might be thinking, what's going on here? But that's a separate podcast, which is the Muslim Money Experts. We talk about halal finance and ethical finance and things like that with a lot of these high-profile guests. So you'll still be seeing some of those clips come up on this channel. But we're also going to reignite traditional podcast, shall we say, where it was myself and Enabong, and we'll also have other guests here in the new studio. What do you think of the new studio, by the way?
First off, it's been a minute. And as Saf mentioned, he left me for bigger guests and bigger co-hosts.
What can I say?
I mean, it's Pogba, so I get it. I understand. But it's fun that we're back. I'm glad that we are back on the train, and we have a pretty good show for you guys today. A couple of good topics.
Yeah, so I've kind of forgotten how to do this because it's been so long, but we're going to be talking about S24 Ultra leaks and rumors. There's been a lot of leaks and rumors, so we're going to be summarizing all of those for you. We've both been using the iPhone 15 Pro Max for the past 3 months. Marquez just uploaded a video about his 3 months experience. So we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of just talk about our experience, what's been different for us. And there's some controversy that you want to touch on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Two big controversies that I think are going to play out for a while. First is OpenAI and Microsoft have been sued by the New York Times for billions of dollars. The amount has not been disclosed, but basically stating that because of how OpenAI has been training the AI and how it regurgitates or recites news articles, that there's some infringements there. We'll get into that. And then finally, this one should be very juicy for everyone out there. Google is settling a lawsuit on the fact that their incognito mode is really not incognito.
So all of Enabong's private history.
No, I mean, I don't use incognito at all. Pretty safe.
But it's a lot. I mean, they're probably also wondering, what are you doing here in person?
Yeah.
So, we're actually working on another project.
Yes, top secret.
He's come over here to Leicester. You'll be finding out about that very soon. We'll see how much we can tease right now.
No, I came on vacation, guys. That's it.
Vacation.
And
you've seen the new set here as well. This is something that we've just set up. We've got a new studio space, which there will be a full office tour of later in the next couple of months. So do stay tuned for that on the main channel. Let's get to it. Samsung Galaxy S24 series, just around the corner. It's becoming earlier and earlier each year now, isn't it? I think the rumored date is on the 17th of Jan.
That is the rumored date, on 17th of Jan. It's been interesting though, because I think Samsung might be forced to push that date early because most of the Chinese manufacturers are launching Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 devices. I already have 2 of them.
Which ones do you have so far?
I have the Red Magic 9 Pro and the IQ 12.
So the pressure is on to get these devices out earlier and earlier. And there have been lots of leaks for the S24, the S24 Plus, and the S24 Ultra. So there will be 3 versions as we've had in previous years. Now, generally speaking, I think the design looks pretty similar. So the design update is pretty incremental. I think the key thing that we've seen from these leaks and rumors is that the displays are going to be flatter.
Yes.
So Samsung has been making their displays flatter and flatter as we've been going in the years. And curved displays look great. But I personally do prefer flat displays. They're easier to put screen protectors on as well. So it looks like the front will be pretty much flat, and then we'll have some curves along the edges. But generally speaking, the design language does look the same, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does look the same. I think some people might be peeved about that, just because it's the same design language, at least for 3 years.
Yeah.
But again, with the flat display, it's a little bit of a difference. I'm fond of the curved displays, honestly. I don't care about screen protector in front because you know what? You just gotta take the wild side, just let it ride.
Depends. Some people are, that's a big investment. So I understand. The one big update that I'm also reading about, and it does look like it's going to happen, is the fact that we are likely to have a titanium frame on the S24 Ultra. So we'll have aluminum frames or aluminium frames on the S24 and the S24 Plus, but the S24 Ultra is going to take a bit of inspiration, so should we say, from the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max and have a titanium frame. And that sounds pretty likely, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to me, it's okay. There's nothing special about that. I don't think it does anything different other than it might make it a little bit lighter. But I don't think it's going to be that noticeable because even with the iPhone, it was noticeable just enough. So, it's one of those things there. But I think one of the things that would be interesting to see is, I remember the video. Actually, this is not a rumor. Samsung released a video about some of the AI capabilities on camera. Now, we don't know if that's going to show up on the S24, but they did showcase a video highlighting multiple camera angles with some AI features where you can actually record the full scene like both of us here, and also have another lens zoom in to say SAF directly and still record that at 4K.
Okay.
So things
Because we've
like
seen
that.
like a few others where you can do 1080p, but this is recording full 4K.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. So we can just maybe shoot our podcast on there. We won't have to have all of these cameras.
I mean, yes, if Samsung would love to sponsor the podcast with a couple of phones, it'd be great.
Now, one interesting rumor is about the zoom camera. So I've always said Samsung has been the king of zoom. The 10x periscope zoom camera, which can go all the way up to 100x. I mean, it's a bit of a gimmick when it goes to that level of zoom, but I mean, still 20, 30 times, you can get some really good zoom. And it looks like they're going down to 5. And again, because Apple went with 5 for the iPhone 15 Pro Max, it looks like they'll be going down to 5. And that's something that I'm already seeing people kind of getting worked up about.
Yeah, I think Apple proved that for photos. A 5x lens is absolutely amazing. I mean, I have some shots that I took. I look gorgeous. It was fantastic.
It sounds like Singala's coming out here.
But I think Samsung looked at that and said, you know what, this is something that we also can do and we should showcase. But I think fans, to me, can they replicate, or at least closely replicate, what the 10X can do digitally with the 5?
With all that AI.
Exactly, all that AI.
But it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm definitely going to be doing some SuperSaf style camera comparisons. We're going to be putting the 10x zoom camera of the S23 Ultra comparing it to the S24 Ultra. So do stay tuned for that. So that's going to be interesting on the camera side of things. Now, displays, I mean, Samsung makes great displays. The one thing that I would say is in 2023, a lot of the newer smartphones had brighter displays. So that was a trend that we were seeing. So it looks like the S24 series, all of them, will have up to 2,600 nits of peak brightness. So that kind of brings them in line with the rest of the displays out there. There's lots of devices out there that have, like even the Pixel, I think, is around 2,600 Pixel 8 Pro. So I think that's going to kind of bring things in line. But the other thing that's interesting is about the performance. So Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. However, it seems like that's only going to be for the US.
Thank you.
Which is, so I mean, for you guys that might not know, the S23 series was full Qualcomm, 8 Gen 2. Now, it was a custom one for Galaxy, but then they didn't have Exynos. Traditionally, we've had two versions. We've had a Qualcomm version in US and I think Korea, but in other regions like Europe and Asia, they've gone for an Exynos version. And although the performance is similar in certain aspects, there are still differences and there's no consistency.
Yes.
But it looks like they're kind of going back on that, and some regions will have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and others will have the Exynos 2400 or 2400. Yeah. I never know how they actually put those together. The other thing that a few people are saying is that the Exynos version is only going to be for the S24, but the S24 Ultra and the Plus might still have 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy across the board. Now, I'll be happy if that's the case, but it might not be.
Yeah, I think they're in very shaky waters because, number one, you have a 8 Gen 3 chipset that has already been proven by devices already out, available. and everyone was happy last year with the 8 Gen 2 across the board.
Yeah.
So it just feels like a regression, right? And also means that for them, you're not selling your cheapest device in the line to more people, because some people just go, I don't want it. I might just skip. You know, because you may not want to go to a Plus, you may not want to go to Ultra. You might just be too expensive or just not your style, right? But the other thing I think here is I heard this rumor earlier in 2023 that's, you know, there was a deal with Samsung and AMD to have an AMD graphics chipset in Exynos chip. That was announced, I think, a couple of years ago. And the rumor early on was that the next Galaxy will have that chip. But that was early 2023, so everyone's like, who knows? But it looks like it's coming back, so it might be that. So who knows? We might see better performance. But it looks like they're also just tempering that to be like, we don't want to, you know, we don't want to get people angry. We don't want to do sales and things.
All right,
like
let's
that.
see. I mean, because if there are two versions, a good thing for us is we can do more videos, so we can do the comparisons, which everybody likes to see. So we'll see about that. What's interesting from all of these leaks that I've been seeing is that they are really pushing on the S24 Plus, because the S24 Plus is almost like kind of like the go-to big option, because the S24 Ultra, the Ultra series obviously has the S Pen, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody wants the S Pen. So it looks like, because from what I'm seeing on the leaks and rumors, the S24 Plus is supposed to have like a much bigger battery, so 4,900 milliamps. So that's only going to be 100 less than what we have on the S24 Ultra. We're also now going to have a Quad HD Plus resolution on the S24 Plus, whereas the S23 Plus only had Full HD Plus. So it's got more of these flagship specs, which I believe is going to be kind of like more of a push for people that, okay, if you want to go for the S24 series, but you don't want the S Pen, hey, you can just get the S24 Plus, and pretty much all you're missing out on is the S Pen, and you've got everything else. Even the charging is going to be faster compared to previous times.
Except you're missing that 200 megapixel camera.
That is true.
Yeah.
Let's see, but I mean, again, there's not been clear details about the cameras as yet, but apart from that, performance-wise, display, everything seems to be almost like the S24 Ultra will have like the titanium and a few extra bells and whistles like the 200 megapixel camera, but it looks like the S24 Plus is like kind of gone a step above and maybe will be an option for a lot of people. Pricing wise, it looks like they will be starting roughly at the same price as what we've had the S23 Ultra series starting at. So that's going to be around $800 for the S24, around $1,000 for the S24 Plus, and around $1,200 for the S24 Ultra. Samsung have some crazy offers, don't they?
They do. They always have some really good offers.
I always say, if you want to get a new Samsung S device, then get it when it releases, because Samsung will have really good trading deals. They'll have all of these offers, which we will be sharing and linking with you guys. So do stay tuned for that. But I'm very excited. It's around the corner. I have done a detailed leaks and rumors, or I would have done when this video goes live, about the S24 series, going into all of the different details. And if you want to see that, that video will be linked and it's on the main channel. But one thing that I do want to kind of note is that Samsung's been very aggressive about the leaks. So I've seen a lot of the guys like Evan Blass and like, you know, the usual leakers, like getting takedown requests and stuff like that. So hopefully this video won't be affected by that. Let's see.
I think it's because they have a lot riding on this device, which brings me to one feature we haven't talked about, which is, you know, there's been a lot of rumors that this is going to be the AI Galaxy phone, right? And there was one about a feature with AI Translate, where I make a phone call and say I'm calling you, and you know, initially it would cover 4 languages: Korean, Japanese, English, and Spanish.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, you speak Spanish, I call you on the phone, it will translate.
So Google has done something similar, haven't they? But doing that for phone calls would be the next step.
Yeah, for phone calls. And if you're using, say, an iPhone, it will still work for you.
Oh.
Because as long as I'm initiating the call. At least that's what the rumor says.
Interesting.
So you will still enjoy the benefits of, you know, conversating with someone in there. And I think maybe that's why Samsung's been really aggressive, because they've got all these different things that they want to really showcase and highlight.
So even though the design might look similar, but there are a bunch of other features which should really sell the devices. But round the corner, stay tuned for our coverage, guys. iPhone 15 Pro Max. So Marquez just released a video a couple of days ago about the iPhone 15 Pro and his experience over 3 months. And I thought that's actually a good thing to discuss, because I've actually not done my iPhone 15 Pro Max review after 3 months because it has been crazy. We've both been using it. I've had one of my SIM cards in this, and this was one of my favorite smartphones of the year. So it was one of my top 5 picks, and it's also one of the devices that I'm taking with me into 2024. There's some really good things. There's some things that are like I didn't end up using as much as I thought I would. But overall, I just think it's a really good phone. So like, first thing I want to talk about is USB Type-C. I mean, this is something that we've been screaming about for so long, right?
Thank you, EU.
Thank you. Because it was just so annoying because like, you know, we travel a lot.
Yes.
The problem what you'd always have is you'd always have to take an extra cable with you, a lightning cable, just for your iPhone, right? Now, AirPods don't stay in my ears, so I don't have that. And I know they've updated some of the AirPods, and there's going to be a process of updating everything to USB Type-C. But it still feels weird to me whenever I plug in the same cable that I've got on my Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra into the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It still feels weird to me, but I'm so glad it's here.
It's been an interesting year with this device because design-wise, changes have been very minimal, other than titanium, but it really looks the same.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's a really good device. I have some positives, I have some negatives on there. Type-C, huge, makes it easy. I mean, just the strip alone, the fact that I usually carry about 3 cables because I've got, laptops that use Type-C. I've got, mics and all that stuff. So having that 5th cable be a lightning cable just becomes annoying for whatever reason. For me, gaming has been huge on this, just simply because you can play console level games. Now, Apple talked about that. I just did a video on Resident Evil 4 on the iPhone. And what I think Apple is trying to prove here, and I really like the fact is that, look, I love Xbox Game Pass. I use it a lot. I use it on multiple devices. But once I jump on the plane, I cannot use it. I will have to carry my Steam Deck, ROG Ally, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So for this trip,
Yeah.
I didn't bring my Steam Deck or Ally.
Yeah.
I took the iPhone, connected my Backbone controller, and I was able to play Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Being able to play that, it's such a very simple thing, but it works really well.
So there's been attempts at things like this before, but I think Apple is the one that can actually get it done and have lots of game developers come on board to bring these console level games regularly onto iPhones. Like, I'm still waiting for Assassin's Creed. I was going to buy it, and I was just like, you know what, I'll wait till it comes on the iPhone, because then I'd rather just play it on here. Because that way I can just, like, I love my ROG Ally, don't get me wrong, but that is something extra that I do need to take with me, whereas this is always in my pocket.
Exactly.
So I can just pick up anytime.
And the extra thing they want to move you away from PC ecosystem is that once you buy it on your iPhone, you can continue that gameplay on your iPad with M-Chip, your M-Chip MacBook Air, and your M-Chip MacBook Pro. So you can go to a much more powerful device, get better graphical fidelity. I don't know how it would compare against high-end gaming PC, but you can still improve the experience from device to device. Rather than if you're playing on PC, you're either stuck with a PC or your Steam Deck, or you're stuck on the Xbox only or the PlayStation. So that's there. Now, my negative, this one comes in lieu of the misses, but it's something that we don't focus a lot on. So she was really happy to upgrade to the 15 Pro Max. She's a 15 Pro Max. She's a Max user, standard. She got it. She started taking selfies, and she hates the selfie camera.
Interesting.
Absolutely hates the camera. And she's like, didn't you review this? I was like, I usually focus more on the rear, which we all generally do.
Yeah.
And she talked about how it just wasn't doing the same in terms of coloration, and also was trying to over highlight a lot of things.
This is so interesting.
And then she went online. As soon as she said that, she went online. She found dozens of Reddit posts and things like that.
Yeah.
And she looked at me. She's like, "You need to talk to Apple. You
Get
need
them
to fix
straight
this." But I also realized, I took more selfies, and I realized she was actually right, because for me, I had the opposite of her. And it's the skin complexion thing. My wife is much lighter than I am. When I take a selfie, I look like a flat shade of chocolate. Honest to God, that is what it looks like. You have to go into the edit section, and then hit I forgot, like the auto feature, and then it tends to bounce out again.
Okay.
So it's one of those
So
things.
so it's so interesting that you mentioned this because I personally like the cameras, but my favorite selfie camera generally has always been the Pixel because I like the Pixel look. However, whenever especially if it's like lots of people who do take a lot of selfies, they're like, oh, I hate this because it makes everything look sharp. It doesn't really hide your imperfections and things like that. So for a lot of people, when they take selfies on the Pixel, they're like, oh no, I actually don't like it for the reasons that I do like it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's so interesting because it looks like with all of this processing with HDR and just bringing out the shadows and the highlights, people like the pictures are better, but they're not what people prefer because people prefer to look nicer. What they feel is nicer.
Well, I agree with that on the Pixel, but I think on the iPhone, what I noticed was it was over highlighting imperfections. So if I actually took my DSLR and I took a photo, and I took it in RAW, which thank you for showing me how to. It's a long story on that one.
We'll go into that.
But I looked at it and I realized the iPhone was over highlighting the feature. I mean, the imperfections, as opposed to normally keeping it flat.
Do you think like over time, like you just have more imperfections now that you're getting older?
No, I don't.
Anyway, so that's interesting. Apart from that, cameras for me, again, I'd say these are still the most consistent cameras because there's certain things that, like, for example, when it comes to dynamic range, I'd say the Pixel is better, right? When it comes to extended zoom, the Samsung is better. But when we kind of combine everything, like photos, videos, ultra-wide zoom, as a package, portrait mode, all of these things, for me, this is still my go-to. Like if you ask me, right, we've got a bunch of smartphones here, and you're just going to be taking photos and videos, right?
Yeah.
Which one are you going to pick? And it's going to be the iPhone 15 Pro Max for me, right? Now, Samsung and Google in particular, when it comes to video, are getting better.
Yes.
Like, I am very interested to see where they go in 2024 because the more I see the video, I'm like, it's getting there. It's getting better. It's still not at the level of the iPhone right now, though. It is getting better, and it's going to be very interesting to do all of these camera comparisons in 2024 because I think they're going to get very, very close, like they have done for a lot of photos.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's interesting. At the end of the day, I think it just depends on what device you use the most on your hands. But the iPhone does have that really good balance. For me, my main device is always a Galaxy. So I tend to use that even more for video now, where I realize I can inject that into my YouTube videos and most people won't notice unless you have a really keen eye in there. Yeah. But I think the iPhone has that overall balance that really brings all the camera sensors into play.
And just while we're on the cameras as well, now that you can shoot S-Log. Now, a lot of people ask me that, shall I get the Pro version so it can shoot S-Log? And then I'm like, do you know what S-Log is? And they're like, no.
Then don't.
And I'm like, then you don't need it, right? If you don't know what it is, you don't need it. Like, personally speaking, even though we do a lot of video production and stuff, I still don't end up using S-Log because I think what comes out, the color science that comes out of the iPhone by default is really good. I actually switch off HDR, by the way. I don't like putting HDR on the iPhone when I'm shooting video, right? So because HDR video doesn't work on all screens, it's like that whole process is very annoying for me. So I always just shoot as standard, and I think it shoots excellent quality video. And even though S-Log is there, and it's nice there to have it as an option, and I'm sure lots of people do get great use out of it, I actually don't use it myself. I've used it a couple of times when I was doing the camera comparisons to show, but I haven't used it since then.
Nah, I haven't touched it once. I mean, it's just not. It's one of those things where it's a great addition, and it's something if you're a professional videographer or photographer, it's an addition to have because hey, your battery might die out or something. You're like, okay, look, if I shoot an S-Log, then I can, I can go and color this to match my Canon or my Sony, and we'll be fine.
You've got lots of options, and it's great to have. It's just I haven't found myself using it. Another thing that I've not found myself using at all is the action button, right? Now, initially I thought great because my phone has been on silent since 2008, right? I never have ringtones or anything. I hate it. Like, it actually annoys me when somebody has like a ringtone go off or something. I'm like, you still have that? It's like, no, keep it on silent, right? So whenever there was the mute switch, right, it was always on mute. So it was pretty much, I put it on mute, and then that's it. I would never touch it again on any iPhone, right? So the fact that they've replaced this with something that you can customize, and you can pretty much make it do anything, which isn't like Apple, like let you do anything you want, right?
Yeah.
So not only can you launch the camera, but you can assign it to a shortcut. So it's funny because Marquez actually made it launch Google Assistant rather than Siri. So that's quite funny. So you can do pretty much anything that you want on it, right? However, the positioning of it is like it's so high that I just don't find myself using it, right? If it was somewhere around here, and I think this might be something that would be interesting if they do this for the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max and stuff, is if the action button is kind of more reachable, so you can also use it as a camera shutter, you know, like how you had on the Sony Xperia devices?
Yeah.
So if it was here, I'd find myself using it so much. Now, when I say here, it's like at the bottom right. I think that would be a much more useful position for it, because right now it's one of the it's the highest button, physical button on the device, which I just haven't found myself using. I initially had it to launch the camera, but then you've got the camera shortcut on the home screen, so it's just like I don't really need it.
I mean, Saf has small hands.
Compare.
See.
Look at him like putting sun higher.
I mean, look at that. Look at that.
There is very little difference.
I mean,
there is very little difference.
How come I can reach it like easily? He was complaining about reaching this, so I mean, I get it. You have issues. It's fine.
Anyway,
but I do hear you with that. I just don't think Apple will add an extra button because it's Apple as Tim Cook operations. That's just spending more money putting a button here, where people would are used to at least a button or something in this position here. But in terms of use case, initially I had it as my games button. So I used to use it to fire up Resident Evil immediately, which is great. But then I actually stopped using it, and I would just swipe up and
just like, because it's muscle memory now at this point, isn't it? I think Apple kind of like, okay, we're replacing the mute switch. If we also change the position, it's gonna get like a bit too much. So I think they've got this now. Maybe they'll keep it for 1 or 2 generations. But I think the better position would be here, so you can easily tap it, and you can also.
But are you sure though? I mean, like, think about it. Most people hold their phones here, so you know, the falsehoods of you hitting.
No, but it's like if you hold your phone upside down, just switch it like I have done right now, right? You are it's a solid button, so you're not going to press it when you're doing this,
true,
right?
Yeah.
So there you go. It's a hand problem. You just don't. Anyway, so that's the other thing. Apart from that, like the titanium frame, for me, I usually use a case on my phone, right? I'm just very paranoid with. I've broken many phones before, so I just like to keep a case on my phone. So in terms of like the feel and the look of it, hasn't really been something. The thing that's been important for me is the fact that it's lowered the weight. So stainless steel, it's heavier. So this actually feels lighter now. So it's like shaved off quite a bit of weight, which I like about the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And I always go for the bigger iPhone as well. So I think that slight reduction in weight has helped. But battery life, again, really good. No problems whatsoever. Speakers, everything else, display hasn't really changed. I still don't use Dynamic Island much. Like apart from, I mean, you flew United. So what I do like is you get the updates on United. That's really cool. But apart from that, like the dynamic island, I just don't touch it at all. Like cool animations and stuff, but I'm never going to actually go ahead and press it.
I mean, no, the same thing. Dynamic Island is a great software solution for a very bad hardware problem. I've always called it that. And the hardware team and software team did not discuss. They made a piece of hardware which, you know, for what it does for facial recognition is great, but it messes up the aesthetics of the device. So software team does a really good job with it, but it's not something, even my wife, who's a huge iPhone user, does not even look at Dynamic Island.
I think it's a nice visual, like, you know, with the software, the animation and stuff, that's great. But as an item to action and press on, it's the topmost item. So you're just never going to interact with it. So
you and distance again from...
He's talking about this. He doesn't use it himself. So that's, I would say, summary, iPhone, still one of my favorite phones of the previous year, and it's going to have one of my SIM cards in until the iPhone 16 Pro Max comes out in like 9 months' time. So fair. Looking forward to the next iPhone. Speaking of looking forward to, what devices are you looking forward to in 2024 in particular?
It's got to be the the Z Fold 6.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Samsung Galaxy Z4 5. I think we both agree that it's a nice device. Don't get us wrong, but because there hasn't really been much competition for foldables in the Western market over the past few years.
Yeah.
It's kind of like had very incremental updates. So we now have devices like the Honor Magic V2 and what's available in the West widely, the OnePlus Fold,
yeah.
which is the one I've been recommending to lots of people now. If they want a foldable, they've just kind of like hardware-wise, they've just gone way ahead of what you're getting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
5.
solid foldable, really good cameras as well, which,
Yeah.
OnePlus has been lacking for a while. So good props on them on that as well. But I think what's interesting, as you said, is Samsung really took incremental updates. And I think the only company they were really focusing on was Google with the Pixel Fold. And, that didn't hit the market well at all. It had its own myriad of issues. But what I found interesting was there was a leak of a foldable from Samsung that actually had an S Pen. It was a dummy unit. I think somebody took it when they went to the Korea tour.
Yeah.
And, it looked thicker, but I was like, give me that.
Yeah.
It's an S Pen built in, which means you probably have a bigger battery too if it's thicker. But one thing that I did realize is that this is 3 years ago. I had a demo walkthrough with Samsung Display, different from Samsung Mobile or Samsung Electronics. And they showed foldable concepts that they had. One of the concepts that they had, I swear to God, looked exactly like the OnePlus Open.
Okay.
And so we asked them, we're like, is this coming for Samsung Mobile? They're like, no. We have Samsung Display.
So
we make displays for everybody out there. So I think Samsung has the ability to quickly ramp up and catch because most of the foldable displays are still made by Samsung.
I think it'll look a lot more like, I think the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 will look a lot like the OnePlus Fold. I don't think it's going to go all the way to the Honor Magic V2, which I still think has the best hardware because it's so slim. I think it's going to go more in line with what we've got with the OnePlus Fold.
Do you think Samsung will also release, because there's been rumor this year and also for next year of a triple foldable, which also I saw, by the way. This is also one of the
but these are
things
concepts. So like when it comes to triple foldables, I think about practicality.
It opened to a 10-inch tablet.
Yeah, but like this is the thing: how many people are actually going to use it? I think there's practicality, and then there's like what. So that's kind of like, oh, cool, look what we can do, which is great. But then how many people are actually going to buy that? How expensive is it going to be? How usable is it going to be on a day-to-day? Whereas a foldable, like we saw some of the outer foldables, which really didn't really take off because of the way they are.
If they position that as a version of the tab, not the foldable, it's now a tablet because it's 10 inches, right?
Tablet which you fold away.
Fold away, right?
Potentially. I still think we're off. I think we're at least a few years off seeing something like that. I don't think we're going to see it this year.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think the Fold 6, however, I am looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be a lot more like the OnePlus Fold.
I agree. I think so. With the S Pen built in, I think that's the
sweet spot. Yeah, that makes it unique. Yeah.
Yes, and if they carry the same camera system as the S24, even the S23, over, I think that would be huge.
Yeah, totally. What do you have for us, Nick?
All right. So we've got some lawsuits.
All right.
not for us.
Not personal.
No, not
well. He has filed a lawsuit about the incognito mode because all of his history has been leaked.
I didn't file that.
We've got to make sure his wife doesn't see it.
All right, we'll start off with that. So Google agrees to settle a $5 billion lawsuit accusing it of tracking incognito users. Now, this was filed in 2020, and I'll just give you a summary of the article here. It says Google was hit with a lawsuit that accused them of tracking Chrome users' activities even when they were using incognito mode. Now, after a failed attempt to get it dismissed, the company has agreed to settle the complaint that originally sought out for $5 billion in damages. So, which means they settled probably for less than $5 billion, but it's probably going to be at least close to $1 billion or $2 billion.
Yeah,
just from the indication here. Now, they said that there were some emails between execs that said that they kind of knew from 2016 that this was still the case. So the complaint accused Google of violating federal wiretapping and California privacy laws that was asking for up to $5,000 per affected user. So technically, you out there probably can get your
So
claim
you have to be in
on this.
be in the US, right?
You have to be in the US.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if your usage has been tracked, what would you advise, seeing as you're an expert in this field? What would you advise to make sure you're not tracked?
don't
Don't look at dodgy stuff
don't
online.
go to dodgy sites. No, I don't. I've never thought any company's incognito or secret mode or whatever they call it
VPN?
is safe. VPN is probably your safest bet.
All right.
For that,
Do you have an affiliate code for that?
just bring the link. There.
We'll have to find one.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the safest. But even the VPN, though, remember it's your browsing history, not necessarily your location as well. Unless you can, I mean, there's some browsers that are out there. I just don't know which ones that give you true security and privacy, but definitely not any of the major ones.
We can't mention any because they've not sponsored us yet.
Yes.
All right, what do we have next?
The next one's another lawsuit. This is from the New York Times. New York Times itself is suing OpenAI and Microsoft for copyright infringement. The lawsuit claims that OpenAI copied millions of Times articles to train the language model that powers ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. So they outlined that that the Times alleges that the language model, which powers ChatGPT and Copilot, can generate outputs and that recites the Times content verbatim and closely summarizes and mimics the expressive style.
So what's interesting about this is it because now it's going to be like they're making money on it? Because before it was just like.
I think so. I think somebody so to me, I have like 2 points on this. One is the fact that because OpenAI is now has a for-profit division,
Now it's
that becomes a play. But I also think this also shows that the New York Times is not making as much money because no one is necessarily reading articles in newspapers. And with something like GBP,
GBP?
GTP.
He's come to the UK, so he's getting used to the currency.
I know, right? With something like that, and Microsoft Copilot, then, imagine you wake up in the morning and just say, summarize the news for me, right?
Yeah.
And it just summarizes the news. You don't have to look at the articles anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's the fear there.
It's interesting. So, slightly off topic, but what do you use AI for right now in your day-to-day? Is there something that you use, an application of AI?
So I use an app called Caption, which does the translations for you and the captions on like my TikTok videos and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then I also use one called Opus AI.
Okay.
Which does the trim downs of videos. So it takes a 16:9 and turns it to 9:16 and cuts it up and also throws in captions as well.
Okay.
As long as you just give it whatever prompts. So I use those quite a bit.
How good do you think it does?
Very good.
Okay. I mean, I'd argue after watching your videos, but I'm joking.
I think the only problem with that one is that it doesn't let you go back to the full clip to readjust certain things.
Okay.
So if you don't have clear divisions, it becomes a bit difficult.
Interesting. Because like on the editing side of things, there's not a huge deal that I've used, but like on the Photoshop side of things, generative AI fill, that was actually my favorite piece of tech of 2023 in our end of year collaboration. And it's just, I use it for everything. Like, right now, this tree, don't want it here.
Have you seen, did you watch, I forgot what Adobe's conference is called, but they had some of their generative AI stuff for video.
Yeah.
Where they showed a guy wearing a suit and they changed his suit and tie while he's walking. You just pause the video. And
it's crazy, isn't it?
I was
how
like,
it's going.
This is nuts.
It is. I mean, it's so interesting, and I think it's going to make things so much more useful. But one thing that I keep getting asked, right, with around AI is, okay, is it going to replace? What is it going to replace, right? And is it going to replace you?
I think AI right now, the version of, I don't consider this AI. I call this retained intelligence almost. Okay. But the version we have right now will replace mundane tasks. So if you look at it from the perspective of, for instance, we get a lot of emails every day, right? And if I have an AI assistant, I think this will be big in the next year or so, where I I tell it every morning, I need a rundown of the most important emails that cover these topics. Let me know. So if I get 1,000 emails every day, I know the 50 emails are, this is the first 50 I need to trace. Prioritizing that. And then you can also do it for, say, you have a family now. Instead of you running through your calendar, because your AI is already putting things for you, it's already reminding you immediately. Yes, there's a reminder, but if you have your AI linked to your buds and you listen to music, you're at the gym, you've forgotten, it's like, hey, look, gotta go pick up the kids. It's 45 minutes away. It would take you 30 minutes to drive. It's already doing those connections.
Yes, I mean, we've already got versions of that. Like right now, if I've got an appointment in my calendar with an address, it'll say, you might want to leave right now if you want to get there in time. And that is, I think, for me right now anyway, the stage AI is at is it's useful, but I don't think it's going to necessarily replace anything, because I was having an interview on Z News in Hindi, which was quite a challenge. But one of the things they were asking me was about AI and, do you think it's going to replace content creators? And my answer was that I think being a content creator, you also need personality, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that maybe they can replicate, but not to the same level, because that's what people watch your videos for. They don't just watch your videos for if they just want just tech news, they can just read something, but they also come to your videos to kind of see some of that personality. How easily is that going to be replaced? I'm not sure if that's going to be done anytime soon. I don't know, maybe 5-10 years time when we're unemployed, then we'll be like, oh, actually. Yeah, but it is very, very interesting, the track it's going at, and I'm looking forward to what's next.
No, I do agree. I think one thing that's going to be interesting with the way AI moves forward is, especially content creators, I think it will weed out a certain group of content creators. I call it lazy content creators. I'm not pointing at anyone. I'm just saying that
names.
For you to do this,
names.
For you to do this, your audience wants to see you. It wants to get to know you, see you active. So you can't just give them piecemeal content, because that's something you can easily just watch through on TikTok and be like, okay, whatever. I just kind of look through it. But the thing I want companies who are working on AI to do that's really important, I believe Qualcomm had brought this up during the tech summit, where I've forgotten what the feature is called on photos, where you can't doctor a photo. I mean, you can change the photo and stuff, but the core file has a registry on there that
tells you that it's been manipulated.
Yes, been manipulated and stuff. So they want to actually implement that in any AI generated content that's made, so that.
That's going to be my career out the way. Whenever people see a picture of Marquez at an Apple event with me and Justine, they'll be like, oh, let's check the file. Yeah. Let's find out if it's actually been edited.
To me, it's
not edited, by the way, just FYI. They're all fully real.
Okay.
Of course, you can vouch for that, can't you? You were there.
I'm not sure how Marquez changes height constantly, though. I mean, he must have magical powers to just go different heights.
He's using AI. That's what it is. Anyway, on that note, we'll end this episode, but there's going to be lots more coming.
Yes.
Right? I've forgotten all of the sort of outro things that are being... obviously, if you're watching this and listening to this on YouTube Music and YouTube, do subscribe. And if it's on Apple Podcasts and others, do give it a rating as well. More people will get to hear it too.
And if you're watching us on either Shorts, TikTok, just keep watching more clips.
Yeah. I mean, you won't see this part on the Shorts and TikToks because we're only going to be keeping them short. But
I mean, why are you spoiling it, man? See how you just messed up the outro right there?
But anyway, but genuinely, man, it's great to have you here back in Leicester. It would be nicer if you were staying for longer, but it's just been a hectic schedule.
Yes.
We were supposed to be at dinner a bit ago, but hey, things happen. But we'll be carrying this on. It might not be in person every time. I'm not sure how the missus will feel about you flying over to Leicester.
I mean, as long as Saf flies me over all the time, business class, by the way.
I knew he was going to say that. I'm going to fly you over economy, the cheapest that I can buy with my points, like $200. And it's like, all right, cool. We can afford that every 6 months. But no, we will be doing many more episodes here on the channel, and you'll be seeing lots more shorts as well as little clips too. So stay tuned. And there'll be lots of coverage on our main channels as well. So do check those out. This is Saf on SuperSaf Speaks, along with my co-host
Thunder E from Board at Work.
And we'll see you next time.